Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the steps to create this beautiful and distinctive looking pair of spiral tubular earrings. The main characteristic of the earrings is a wide rectangular spiral formation that surrounds a rice paper insert. The rice paper has been tinted with watercolor paints. So, let's take a closer look at the earrings. All of the spiral tubular earrings that we see here have been formed from 18 gauge wire. The ones in the center and the ones on the right are made out of 18 gauge sterling silver wire. The ones on the left, I happen to use nickel silver only because I ran out of sterling silver. And these are the earrings that I constructed for the demonstration video. All the ear wires have been hand formed, and I do have a video out that you should watch if you'd like to learn how to make these ear wires. And they're all made out of sterling silver wire. I only use sterling silver or gold, and sometimes niobium, which is fairly safe for most people to wear. And the gauge for the ear wires is 20 gauge. Dead soft wire. The rice paper that you see inserted in all three pairs of earrings has been tinted with watercolor after the rice paper has actually been inserted. And to stiffen it and make it permanent, the paper is coated with a dilute layer of varnish. To make a pair of the spiral tubular earrings with delicate rice paper inserted, you will need curved nose pliers, pair of regular chain link pliers, a pair of standard side cutters or flush cutters. Optional, but I find myself using them lately, a pair of flat nose pliers. What's indispensable for this project is square mandrel shaped pliers. This is a medium size pair. They actually make a pair of pliers like this, only much larger. And for the earring that you're about to make, you're going to use a smaller mandrel. A ruler. And as usual, I'm using a cutting board with 1-inch ruler gradations on it for cutting the wire. Some optional tools that'll come in handy. 2 little clamps. I happen to use them in this particular project. Materials. 18 gauge nickel silver wire, round, dead soft. I will be using a nice translucent piece of rice paper. I'm thinking as I look at this, you could probably use tissue paper if you can't get your hands on some rice paper. A small paintbrush. In all my jewelry, I use polyacrylic Minwax as my standard varnish because I'm able to achieve a very hard, durable surface. For this project, I diluted the varnish with 50% water, and I have it in a plastic bottle dispenser for easy application. And finally, some watercolors for tinting the rice paper. 2 other things, a pair of round nose pliers, and of course, the protective goggles. Let's make the earrings. First thing I need to do is measure out 2 10-inch lengths of the 18 gauge wire. Okay, at the 1-inch mark, I'm bending my wire, giving it a 90-degree bend. Now, this is a really nice square-shaped mandrels. Very useful. The brand name is Wubbers, W-U-B-B-E-R-S. Medium-sized pliers. I'll use the Wubbers to form the rectangular tube-shaped structure that the rice paper gets inserted into. Now, how do we do it? Here's how I like to do it. I'm going to use the smaller mandrel, not the large mandrel, although I could. For these, I use the large one. It's a nice size earring, but I like to make a tinier earring this time around. We start giving it the bend. Now, as I bend it, I move my form around the pliers. Take your time, focus on what you're doing. Now I pull it out carefully, and I reinsert it. And I squeeze it really tight. I want to get nice, sharp 90-degree bends. Try to keep the wire tight up against the jaw of the pliers. I want to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 complete wraps around. Then what I'll do is bend it one more time. The long length that you see here will eventually form the top part of the earring, and the short, precisely measured length, the 1-inch length, will form the spiral. Now, before I do any bending to complete the earring, I'm going to leave that alone, and I'm going to construct the other half of the pair. I position that just about in the middle, and I make my bend. Yeah, I'm squeezing it firmly each time because I want to sharpen and strengthen the angle. I haven't made 2 of them. The next step is to create the spiral at the bottom. And for this, I use my precisely measured 1-inch length that sticks out. To form the spiral, hold it with my round nose pliers and begin the spiral. I'll continue to wind the spiral using curved nose pliers. I just want a small little spiral down there, and that's why I only left 1 inch. Okay, that's it. See, the spiral form is a nice way to resolve the end of a piece of wire that sticks out. It's a wonderful natural solution. Same thing here. Grab firmly with your round nose. Begin the spiral. Now, taking my curved nose, continue. That's nice. Having worked in the spirals, the next thing I do before I open them is form the top coiled loop. To do that, I position my pliers mid-center and I make a bend in the wire, like that. Let's do it on both halves of the pair of earrings before we move forward. Position the pliers just about mid-center. When I say center, mid-center, I'm referring to the pliers being placed right in the middle. And then I bend the wire up. That's all. Measuring about 1/4 of an inch from the top of what will become the earring. Grabbing the wire at the 1/4 of an inch mark. I bend the wire out at a 45-degree angle, then position my pliers on the 45-degree bend, and continue to bend the wire up and around to form a loop. Now, this definitely requires the use of a second pair of pliers. Hold that newly formed loop firmly with my curved nose pliers, and taking my chain link pliers, hold on to the end of the wire. Wrap the wire 2 times around, then trim flush with the side cutters. Next, I hold the loop I just made, and with my chain link pliers, I finesse the wire's end by gently squeezing it to make everything lay flat. I want this wire wrap right here to lay flat. I don't want any ends sticking up. That would ruin the piece. I have 2 earrings that need to be stretched to reveal the tube that I made. And I think I would like them to be about 1 inch in length. So, here we go. Good. That tube I stretched out to approximately 1 inch. And although I call it a tube, it's a rectangular tube. It's not a circular tube. Let's do the same thing with the other half. Actually, there's no reason why they couldn't be worn like that. That'd be a nice looking pair of earrings. Maybe with some dangling beads in the middle, or just the way it is. After I stretch them out, and I play around with them a bit to make sure they are the same length, then I sometimes need to make some minor corrections. The next step is to position the rice paper. For the rice paper, I'm going to cut myself 2 1-inch wide strips. Having cut 2 lengths of rice paper, approximately 1 inch wide by just about 3 inches long, I roll the rice paper around a skewer. That looks like about 1/8 of an inch thick. Then I insert the rice paper into the cylinder, and I remove the skewer very carefully. I play with it in such a way that it unravels a bit and comes in contact with the walls of the tube. I also try to keep it from flaring out. After it's positioned, and I'm satisfied with where it is, its placement, I apply a few drops of water for 2 reasons. This is going to help it settle in place. and expand a little bit more. It also primes the paper, preparing it for the watercolor paint that I'm about to apply. Let's do that again. Roll the remaining piece of rice paper. Good. Then insert it into the tube. And play around with it so it fits in there nicely. Now I'll dampen the rice paper. With the beautiful rice paper in place, next thing to do is consider how you want the paint to flow. In this pair, it goes from darker on the bottom to lighter on the top. So let's do the same thing here. To achieve that result, I use a little clamp. This holds it upright and will allow the paint to run down. So why don't we go with purple. Now I'll stain the top of the rice paper with the purple and let the capillary action of the paper carry the pigment down. I'm not going to brush it all the way. I'm just going to let it flow on its own. Now that I'm creating the effect that I want, I'm going to reposition this way. Capillary action will still allow the pigment to flow up slightly, but I'll get a concentration of darker color at the bottom where I want it. Some time has passed, and I've allowed the paper to dry completely. Next thing that needs to be done is the application of varnish, and I use the polycrylic Minwax. I dilute the varnish with 50% water so that it flows easily into the fiber of the paper. And here we go with my applicator bottle and dilute varnish. I apply the varnish. The varnish will also glue the rice paper to the wire. Just let it suck in. Be patient. Let's do the other one. Good. Let that dry. Continue with this one that I put aside. It still has the capacity to nicely absorb the varnish. So that means I can apply a little bit more varnish. I don't see any pooling of the varnish at this point. Having applied the first coat of varnish, diluted varnish, I applied 2 additional coats to the outside and the inside because it's opened, and I could easily flow varnish into the inside of the earrings. See? There we go, the inside. This is what I like about these earrings. The fact that they're open to the inside and the rice paper is relatively thin. They have a nice translucency to them. The varnish that I used is diluted by 50% water. So it really incorporates itself into the very fiber of the rice paper, being thoroughly absorbed. I also prepared 2 ear wires. The ear wires that you see here, I formed them using dead soft sterling silver wire To learn how to make these ear wires, see my video on how to make the basic ear wire. And now to complete the earrings, I'll attach the ear wires to the earrings. Now to finalize the construction of these rather unique looking earrings, pinch down the loop at the bottom of the ear wire. Then with a second pair of pliers, I wrap the wire around the earring tightly. 1, 2, okay, I'm going to go for 3. I have enough wire. That'll give me a nice looking coil. 3. Having done that, with my side cutters, press it up against that coil I just formed, and trim off the excess. And as you already know, I use my chain link to work down that little piece of wire that always remains sticking up. I don't want anything sticking up. There. If you run your finger along it, it's supposed to feel nice and smooth, and it does. We have a finished earring. Let's finish the other one. Position it on the ear wire. Bend the loop down, but don't distort its circular shape. Now, holding it firmly with my curved nose. 2. We want to go 3 times around, so everything is the same. Both halves of the pair are mirror images of one another. 3. With my side cutters, I trim off that little piece. See it? Press my plier against the earring. Oh, good view. And snip off that little piece. And see, that's the little piece of wire that always sticks up. What do I do with that? I'm going to take my chain link pliers and squeeze that little piece of wire gently down. Okay? And then I sort of rotate the sterling silver wire coil like this with my pliers. I find that that action actually burnishes the surface of the wire and flattens everything down nicely. One final tip. If you do make your own ear wires, it's important to flatten and deburr the metal. Having cut the metal with side cutters, the metal is going to come to a sharp point. So what I'll often do is rub the wire back and forth on a flat jewelry file, or even a piece of emery, which works fine. See the circular motion? That flattens it out nicely. Then, on a 45, I work into it, just to make sure I get off that nasty little burr. Or you can take your emery, which is my preference. I actually take it a step further and polish the ends of the ear wires using my flexible shaft tool. Why don't I show you how to do that? I'm on the other side of my studio now. What you see me holding here is the hand tool that's attached to a flexible shaft, controlled by a foot rheostat. It is absolutely the most wonderful tool you can use as a jeweler. In this case, I have a rubber polishing point attached. And what I'll do is I'll take that and I'll simply polish the tip of the ear wire, removing any possibility of a burr. That's smooth. But you don't have to use a fancy tool like that. You can achieve the same thing with a piece of emery and sand at a 45-degree angle. A new pair of finished tubular earrings with the ear wires attached. Hope you enjoyed watching the video.